speaking of giving us a call, it looks like Melinda has given us a call from California, and she wants to share the reason why to believe in ghosts and their experience with the supernatural. So yeah, you ready to talk about some ghosts, Jim?
Sure.
All right, Melinda, you are on with Jim and Bree. Almost called you Jen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, Melinda.
Thanks for having me on. Hi.
Yeah, glad to have your call. So do you have a ghostly experience?
I have quite a few, actually. I will share a few today with you.
Okay. Can we just so that we can get to the really juicy stuff, can we start with the most compelling one, the one you think would be the most convincing to skeptical people such as ourselves?
Yes. So I'll start off with my dad was a huge skeptic. All of my experience that I would tell him, he was always saying, "Oh, it could be this or it could be that. Are you sure you didn't hear this or that?" So one day, we live in a 2-story house, and this was in Vacaville, California. When I lived there, I was about 14 or 15 at this time. We were all downstairs watching TV, including my dad, my mom, my sister, and our dog. I would hear this often, usually when I was home alone, but we would hear somebody walking upstairs, and I associated with a larger man because they sounded like very heavy footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day we heard it. My dad heard it as well. I saw his face change, and he kind of muted the TV. And I said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yes, I did. It's probably the dog, our dog Jojo." And I said, "No, it's not. He's laying over here on the other side of the sofa." He still kind of tried to deny it and play it off, but I knew that we all heard it. And from that day, he was kind of more believing, but there was no denying it. Everybody was downstairs, and you could clearly hear very heavy footsteps coming from upstairs. And I would hear this usually when I was home alone. My mom would be running groceries, and I would actually go wait out front for her to get home. I would not go back inside. I was always so terrified.
Did the dog respond to this sound?
He did not, and he never really did. And even when times where I'd be scared and I'd leave outside, unfortunately I would leave him inside the house, and I would never hear him bark randomly at night or pop his head up or anything like that. No.
So what was up there? What all was upstairs?
So we had my mom's room, and she had a big closet and a bathroom, and then it was mine and my sister's room and another bathroom upstairs.
So there were 2 bathrooms upstairs altogether?
Correct. Okay. Yep.
And right. How old was the house?
You know, those houses in Vacaville, they weren't very old. I mean, they couldn't have been nice houses, modern. It was in a nice neighborhood too. I honestly don't remember how old they are, but they weren't old. I mean, they looked new. Everything seemed new. Really nice, new, modern houses. A lot of that area was, I guess they called it Cowtown. It was a lot of fields right. And mountains and things like that around that area.
Okay. So you hear sounds you're interpreting as footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you believe that was anything other than just an audio phenomena of some kind in the house? Why jump to the supernatural?
Because it wasn't the first time. Another experience, and I believe it was the same man, was when my dad would commute to San Francisco, and he would stay sometimes nights at a time. It would just be me, my mom, and my sister. One night when we were sleeping in my mom's room, as we usually did, because we were scared most of the time, again, unfortunately, so we slept with her a lot when my dad was gone. One night we were sleeping. My sister, who was 3 years older than me, woke us up and said she heard somebody coming up the stairs. Me and my mom woke up, and we also heard, again, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. And even though it was dark, you can still see a dark figure peering around the corner of my mom's door. She was so terrified, and we heard the footsteps run back downstairs as soon as we all woke up. She said, "Run, go hide in the closet, and she proceeded to get her bat and went to check the house. We thought somebody had broken into the house. It was very terrifying. She checked the whole house. Nothing was, no windows were open. Nothing was unlocked. So that was, again, very terrifying. And it sounded like a man, and also the height from him peering around the doorway. I would say, I don't know, he must have been at least 5'8".
Okay. It was just a
I would
black
hear
figure?
walking. Yes, and like I said, even though it's dark, this figure was darker than dark, if that makes sense. Like, I could still see an outline, no face. We called them shadow people when we would see them, and this wouldn't be the first time I've seen things peering around doorways and things while I'm watching TV. I would see things at the corner of my eye hear walking in that house.
That's yeah. I mean, interpreting, anthropomorphizing what you see out of the corner of your eyes is not a new phenomenon. I mean, it's happened to me. I just don't jump to the supernatural or shadow people. I just know it's my eyes playing tricks on me, because it's dark and we don't see well, and twilight we definitely don't see well at night. You know, it's just it becomes one of those things of, you've got an audio phenomenon of, you know, of stairs, someone coming up the stairs that you're interpreting as someone coming up the stairs. And again, you're making this conclusion that it's supernatural. The most likely scenario in this case might be you actually had an intruder who came in. But the fact that he was darker than dark, as you say, would indicate that either he was wearing all black to include like a ski mask or something like that over to their face. But even then, I would expect to see whites of the eyes. So this was, you know, this would have been someone prepared, a lot more prepared for people waking up than that, more than likely. I don't know.
That's scary too, to think that was a real intruder, you know, breaking into your house, which, you know, when you all were children. That's a terrifying concept. I'd rather hope it was a ghost than an intruder being.
Right.
And so would we. Yeah, my mom was terrified. I remember feeling so scared for her to go down there by herself with the bat. And you could just hear the fear in her voice. And we were a little relieved. Yes, we would much rather it be something supernatural than an actual human breaking into our house.
So, real quick, was the witness, okay, so it was you and your sibling, your mom saw it too?
She did. And we all heard the footsteps run back down the stairs.
So you all saw it peek around the corner, or saw them? Because I'm going to say it's to them. I'm going to assume it's a person at this point. And you could hear footsteps of them running, but all the doors and windows were locked.
Correct.
Yeah, that's.
And again, we have a dog. He did not alert that anybody was in the house.
Right. There's an interesting TV show a number of years ago called It Takes a Thief, and the basic premise was two ex-thieves were the stars of the show, and they would go to people's homes and say, hey, we do this show where we break into people's homes, show people how easy it is, and then give them security systems and show them how to fix it, fix their security issues. What's really interesting about that show that relates to this is that dogs never barked at anybody. In one episode, they actually stole the dog. And by steal the dog, I mean he opened the car door because he was stealing the car and the dog jumped in. There wasn't a whole lot of stealing going on. The dog was self-stealing. But it's interesting that the dogs never barked. And yet, in most cases, when they'd go up with the owner inside, the dogs would bark at somebody at the door. But I don't know that the dog barking or not barking actually necessarily means something unless you have a dog that normally barks at strangers in the house when you guys are home. And if it's not that type of dog, then, you know, I don't know that you can actually read anything into that. But it's
somebody the dog knew. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I do have other experiences if you guys have time. I would also feel my hair being moved, even when I was awake. And it wasn't the feeling of, you know, when you're laying down, it's falling over your face, like towards your eyes. It was more back towards, like, behind my ears. And clear as day, I could feel it. And this stuff was happening so much, I almost got used to it and not as scared over time. Other things, I would hear whispers in my ear. Even one time when I was on the phone talking to my friend, I could hear my name whispered clearly in my ear. And I ran downstairs so fast. I'm trying to think. And this was all in the same house. So that was the house that I've had the most, and what I'm still going to refer to as paranormal experience I've ever had. That was a very active house. And we lived there for about 3 years.
So when you say moving your hair, you mean like pulling it, or like just your hair fluttering?
Just gently, I can feel it just gently moving my hair from, let's see, like the side of my face to up behind my ear, not tucked behind my ear. I guess you can say a flutter, not pulling. And I never got the feeling that it was anything that was trying to harm me or my family. Scare us, yes. If that was intentional, I don't know. But yes, they were all terrifying experiences.
Right. And I'm still looking for the reason you're concluding that this was supernatural instead of a bunch of one-off, strange occurrences that happen in the house. What leads you to believe that it is in fact supernatural? Just strange experiences aren't going to do it for me, and stacking them all together is not going to do it either. So what is it that leads you to this conclusion that it was supernatural?
I guess it would be feelings of constantly being watched, though nobody's there. Hair, I'd get chills. My hair would just stand on end. And I could just be doing something, not thinking about anything paranormal, nothing scary. And then all of a sudden you just get this eerie feeling that somebody's watching you. And I hated that feeling. I would feel that all the time in that house. I'd feel uncomfortable. I was being watched.
Are you familiar with infrasounds?
No.
Okay, so there's a phenomenon where certain frequencies of sound that we can't even audibly hear. You're not even aware of it. They're so low that cause nervousness and fear, anxiety, and there are different architectural designs and structures. Just the way that the empty spaces in the house are laid out, that under certain pressures and different wavelengths of sound that cause this infrasound response. I know the hotel that The Shining is based on, I can't remember what the real one's called, the Stanley Hotel, and the fake one's the Overlook. The real one's the Stanley Hotel. That they picked up infrasounds in the basement underneath that caused people to have that uneasy feeling when they stayed in a specific room. Now, we're very susceptible to that level of infrasound because in our evolutionary journey, that is actually a sound that is emitted by big cats when they roar. So it automatically unnerves us when we hear something in that frequency, and we don't know why we're unnerved. They did some tests on it at concerts where there was music playing, and underneath the music, they would play the infrasound and see the difference in the way the audience interacted with the music that they were hearing in response to that. Really interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And there's a 2003 group. In 2003, there's a group of UK researchers who actually did this at 2 different concerts and got the exact same reports from multiple people that you're giving us now in terms of weird, odd, being watched, etc. So, it could definitely be that. We're not saying it is, because I asked for evidence and you stacked on more experiences, and those experiences just aren't going to be enough to convince us that it was supernatural. Did you have those experiences? Absolutely, you did. And that's not what I'm questioning. I'm really trying to question how you came to the conclusion that it was anything supernatural.
I guess it's just a feeling you get. And again, it's like, it's really hard to say unless you have these experiences. And people are always going to say, oh, it could be this, or science proves that it could be this, or like you guys are saying, certain frequencies and things like that. I just don't know how I can explain hearing my name spoken right into my ear when I'm on the phone. Or yes, maybe somebody did break in and they left no trace whatsoever. People are that good. But when other people start having the same experiences and see and hear the same things you are, it's one thing to hear it yourself or see, oh, I saw this at the corner of my eye. But when it's multiple people who are seeing it, to me, it's just harder to not believe that it had happened. And I guess it's really just a feeling that I get that it is something paranormal.
Right. No, see,
and there was
I've
also
actually
a time when I had. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've had the experience of someone calling my name, turning around, and nobody being there on multiple occasions. None of those occasions did I assume that there was anything supernatural about it, because there was no evidence for the supernatural. It was, I have no idea what it was to this day. But and it may happen again, but it's some sort of, I won't call it auditory because I don't know for sure I heard anything. I don't know there was in fact sound. I've been next to people when it's happened and they haven't heard anything. So it could very well just be in my own head, but I'm not going to jump to a supernatural conclusion until I have evidence of something that's supernatural going on. I just have evidence of an experience. And that's kind of what we need. I mean, when we talk about ghosts, we're usually talking about souls. There's no evidence that a soul exists. And so I mean, that would be kind of the first step to proving that any ghost story is true, is prove that souls exist. And we just don't have any evidence of that. And so where do the ghosts come from? Are they some sort of unseen entity, Buckaroo Banzai style? Maybe, maybe not. But we need some evidence for it to jump to the conclusion that this is something that is in fact real. And as for multiple people, multiple people saw the sun move in strange ways down in Mexico at that sighting, and multiple people have cited multiple things. And the problem with eyewitness testimony is that it is the most unreliable form of evidence we have. And it's really not until the last 20 or 30 years or so that we've really discovered just how bad eyewitnesses are, regardless of training. And it's just the way that we process information. One of the things that police try to do when they've got a bunch of witnesses is separate the witnesses, not because the witnesses are actually going to actively change their stories, but in talking to each other, they will change their stories. And I'm not claiming that anybody is no foul play here, right? This is just humans being humans. And the dominant person or the person with the strongest story will influence other people's stories. And so when you say you've got lots of witnesses, that doesn't add much to it other than you all had the same experience. But if you talked about it immediately after, did you really have the same experience? Or were you just confirming each other's experiences and convincing each other you had this same experience? Because that's the most likely case, because of the way the human mind works. And again, there's no nefarious purpose going on with this. It's just the way humans work.
Your brain uses the information your friend has given you to help build the picture of what you're remembering, and it changes how you remember things a little bit. There's a circumstance that really gets me on that one is they call the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter that happened in Kentucky, where the farmhouse was assaulted by little aliens that really, the description of them, they're like owls, but you see the evolution of the depictions that the people put of these aliens or put out of these aliens evolve as they kind of fed into each other's way of remembering the way the creatures looked. Shadow people especially are always intriguing when it comes to the way that people describe them and remember them. I like the way that you said out of the corner of your eye, because that's almost always the way that I've seen them myself and how other people see them. And I don't think that there's any real physical phenomenon there. I think that that's your brain just trying to fill in what's happening over here in your peripherals as best it can.
Yes, I can see that. And I can definitely, that's why I like doing it. I like to see other people's, because I'm not always going to assume everybody's going to, agree with what I say or believe with what I say. So it is good to hear, other sides of the spectrum, people saying, so this is great. I mean, I don't expect everybody to believe me right off the bat. I still believe what I saw, and just, again, and it's a gut feeling that it was paranormal, just because I've had too many experiences in my lifetime to say otherwise, and that's kind of just how I personally feel about it.
Right.
But it is good to hear these other theories and things like this, and I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on and kind of hearing your take on it. It's really good information for sure.
It's really been a pleasure speaking with you tonight. I know we've thrown some different we've thrown some different ideas on what you could have been experiencing at you. Hopefully you'll take those into consideration. We didn't come into this hoping change your mind, but there are a lot of factors that could come into play for sightings like this. All right, well, thank you, Melinda.
I agree, and thanks so much for having me on, guys. I hope you guys have a good rest of your night.
You too.